Hey guys, I just wanted to do a little video here to show off the newest member of my handheld console family, the Nintendo Switch Lite. As you can see, I got it here in gray, and it looks a lot better in person than I thought it would, based on the pictures. I was a little worried to get the gray because I was kind of hoping for black, but I mean, it fits the Switch theme pretty well, and you can see from the back here, like, man, it just looks clean and everything just looks premium about it. You really, like, if you didn't know the price of it and you saw this just with someone out playing it or whatever, you would not think that it's a budget console. But in terms of a handheld, it's a little big. That's why I put it here next to my PlayStation Vita and my 2DS XL. Yeah, so it does fit in my pockets, and that's good for most people because my pockets are pretty small. However, it does stick out at the top, and let's come down here. The joysticks are huge comparatively to the Vita's joysticks. Ignore the little nubs I got for my Vita joysticks, but they do catch a lot when pulling it out of your pocket. But good news is it still works. It still fits in your pocket pretty well. Don't get me wrong, people with the OG Switch pulled off fitting it into their pockets, but typically to do so, they'd have to take the Joy-Cons off and put the Joy-Cons in one pocket and the tablet part in another pocket, taking up both their pockets. So this really only takes up one pocket. And another thing with the both pockets thing, if you want to carry anything else in your pockets, like keys or whatever, it's easier to keep your keys away from your Switch if it's only taking up one pocket. So as you know, if you've seen my channel before, I like to hack my handheld consoles because the Vita, for example, is a really, really amazing portable emulation device. And I can play a lot of my old games on it on the go, and it's really cool. So I have my Vita here hacked, and I have my 3DS here hacked. So I had bought the Switch Lite with the intent of maybe letting it sit for a while and only playing cartridge games with it, and waiting on that lower firmware for a higher chance of one day maybe being able to hack it. It is not hackable right at the moment. But another thing that goes along with that is the video out, as we all know, does not work on the Switch Lite like its bigger brother. It doesn't even have the video out chip. I do not have a source on that, but it would make sense for them to not include it because it would cost them a couple extra bucks probably. Now, that doesn't mean it won't ever get video out because the Switch Lite does have data output capabilities. So, like the Vita, through its data connection, there was a plugin for hacked Vitas by Xerpe called USB streaming. So what that does is it streams out through the data port. The Vita can emulate a webcam basically, and smart devices like computers can pick it up and display it as such. So yeah, the Vita now, if it's hacked, has a fully functioning video out basically. Now, the Switch Lite has the potential to do the same thing, assuming A, is someone hacks it and adds a plugin similar to the one on the Vita, or B, Nintendo updates it, adding that functionality. However, keep in mind, if it's hacked and that's added, or if Nintendo adds it themselves, it will never work with Switch docks of old, basically. It will need a specific Switch Lite dock because the specific Switch Lite dock will have to have basically smart capabilities in it. It will need to be able to see it as a webcam, and current Switch USB-C docks do not do that. So knowing that, I decided, yeah, I'll I'll sit around and just wait. I'll wait it out. I will play cartridge games and whatnot. But unlike the Vita, turns out you basically can't do anything other than play non-updated cartridge games unless you have a Nintendo account attached to the device and you have the firmware all the way updated. So I purchased a game the other night called Daemon Ex Machina, and man, there's a lot of reports that unless you update it, there's a lot of issues with it. So when I went to go play it, I thought, well, I mean, it'll surely let me update the game without a software update, but nope. So I gave in basically, and I have updated my Switch Lite to the newest official firmware. Maybe one day there will be a vulnerability for it that someone will expose. I am not sure. But yeah, basically most of my dreams of hacking the device went crumbling down when I turned it on and played around with it for a little bit. So yeah, unfortunately, Nintendo gave people a reason to want to hack it right off the bat. Because, man, this device would be perfect if they kept that video out in it. I mean, you can't really even call it a Switch, honestly, because that was the whole purpose of the Switch, was that you could take it on the go and output it to a TV if you wanted to. So, as you can see here, Nintendo does have this little notch here for a dock for the Switch Lite. I believe they've already released a Switch Lite dock that stands it upright and charges the console, but it does not do video out. And that's nice, though, because they did keep the functionality to pair a controller with it, which is awesome. As some of you may know, the Vita also has that capability if it's hacked, which is nice. So yeah, these two can connect controllers to them pretty easily. 3DS, you need a computer as a middleman to do that. Other than the obvious processing power upgrade, the Switch Lite does do a few things better than either of these other two consoles. For one, it does have some trigger-shaped triggers instead of just these bumper-like triggers like the Vita has. The Vita only has one bumper-shaped trigger on each side. So that is a bonus. And the 2DS XL does have two on each side, but they're both bumper-shaped. Now, the thing with these, while they are nice, they are just a button. So there's no analog functionality going on with these. But it does make shooter games feel a lot nicer. And another thing that goes along with that is the console does not sit flat because of those triggers. So that's one thing. Another thing, let's turn on the display here. The display, it's nicer than the original Switch to an extent, and it's on par with the new original Switch. But something I noticed with it, it's kind of weird. It does have some ghosting. Let's see if I can show you here. We'll go to the news. I don't know if this is going to pick up on camera, but there is some ghosting. I heard some people complaining about that with the new original Switch. But yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. The Vita doesn't really have that at all. And actually, I would say in terms of display, the Vita and the Switch Lite are pretty on par. The Vita's screen is actually an OLED screen. I don't think that's the case here with the Switch Lite. Because yeah, the blacks are not the best, and the whites look the whites look very washed out on the Switch. But yeah, it other than the ghosting issue, which maybe they can get sorted out in software, I don't really know. The screen looks great. It doesn't have that like bluish tint like the original Switch had. And the screen is slightly smaller, but it is the same resolution, so that means it has higher pixel density. So theoretically, this should be the best looking Switch display, and it might be. It's just the ghosting is very obvious, and I hope they can fix that. The last major disappointment with the Switch Lite is Nintendo has still not added Bluetooth capabilities to it, which is a disappointment to say the least. The 3DS, 2DS line never had it, and now the Switch line does not have it either. And the Vita has had it since release. This is the original Vita, came with Bluetooth. So yeah, it's just kind of a disappointment to see even the newer Nintendo consoles not adding that functionality. Most people have Bluetooth headphones these days and would prefer to use them. And while I don't mind using a wire, the wire's on the top here. I'd prefer it on the bottom. It's just a minor complaint there, but at least it still does have the headphone jack. So yeah, that's my little quick review of the Switch Lite. It is a very premium handheld. Also, I played it for a couple hours straight, and even in a game like Daemon Ex Machina, where the graphics are pretty intense, it didn't seem to get hot at all. The worst, it got a little warm right around here or here, I think. That's about it. Didn't get hot at all. So, yeah, my new member here, he's pretty big compared to my other members.